Hey, welcome to Seduction Tech. I am so excited. I'm always excited, but now I'm extra excited. I'm doubly excited because I have two special people on the program. And this is something that came out of having both of them individually with such great perspectives and points of view that I said, what if this perspective and this perspective sort of try to either coexist or, you know, tear each other up? I don't know. But so we have the special people ladies first, Francisca is here. Francisca, well, and we have Taylor. So Francisca, tell us who you are, then Taylor us who you are. You like the
Yeah.
fun?
So my name is Francisca. I'm from Berlin in Germany, and I'm a relationship coach for men primarily, not only, but primarily. And I work with men on the polarity of masculine and feminine. So to understand women better and to step into their empowered masculinity. That's my work.
Well, yeah, no, nothing too shabby. That's good. Is that shabby's not? And sorry, that was my Berlin accent. I apologize for that. That was very bad. Taylor, how about yourself? What do you do? Who are you?
I'm Taylor Alwood, and I am with Sovereign Submission. I am a men's coach who helps men who have submissive desires explore those desires from a place of sovereignty in order to be fully present in their relationships with themselves as well as with their women and their families.
Excellent. Two very strong coaching points of view. You know, and we want to find out, can you both of you coach one person? You know, well, let's get to the first. Let's go easy into this. So Francisco, what does it mean to be a man in 2025? The modern man, what is that?
You ask me what it means to be a man?
Yeah, like what?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Because you coach men.
Yeah.
From a woman's perspective, which I think is wonderful. That's where it should come from, with my opinion. But from what you see, the man that I think from 19 whatever are not the man today. So what is a man today from your perspective?
I don't think that I can answer this, but I can tell you what I see in terms of like a general, like some kind of trend. And what I see is that many men really struggle with feeling like a human being is allowed to be and to feel good about themselves and to feel good in life and to have a place as men. And that's what I see in many, like this underlying sense of I shouldn't be here, or I'm I don't know where I am or where I should be or how I should be. And like this, like a cluelessness. This is what I see in many men. And
Do you
also
think that
pain.
makes them weaker? Are they weaker now than
this is absolutely weakening. Like, I mean, it comes from stories that they heard, like from own experiences where they felt like they should be different. I mean, now we have like these narratives around masculinity that are not positive. So they feel like it's a big part of them and they feel like it shouldn't be that there. So it really robs them of confidence and every human being who is on earth should be here. They are supposed to be here. That's like, for me, that's a no-brainer. But if you feel like you shouldn't, like, that's like it robs you of like juice you feel in life. So you become like a servant to other people, but you are not important enough, especially not important enough to feel good. Like, that's a very compromised state of being, I think.
Wow. So Taylor, your philosophy, if I'm not wrong, is that you empower men through submission, or you see submission as a form of empowerment. And in contrast to the perspective we just talked about, that maybe men are maybe weaker now, they're a little bit lost out of direction. Do you agree with that? And if you do or you don't, does submission help? Is it part of the reason that men are like that? Or how do you see this polarity on strength and weak men?
Well, I definitely think there are a lot of men who are lost and don't know what they really want or who they are. I think that there are a lot of men struggling with what it even means to be a man. What does it mean to be a man? How do I provide? How do I show up? How do I take care of myself, let alone the woman in my life or the kids in my life or all those other things? So these are questions that are very, very much in place. And there can be a benefit for a man who says, like, look, I don't want to be in charge of everything. Because there is a real pressure for men to be in charge. You know, oh, you got to take the lead. You gotta be the leader. But I think that it's really important that that man does it from a place of conscious choice. There's a difference between nice guy behaviors, where there's covert contracts in place, where that man might be like, oh, I got to do whatever I can to get her approval in the hopes that she's going to spread her legs and have sex with me. Versus being able to say, you know what, I'm choosing to serve this. I'm choosing to be of service to this person, to my wife, to my kids, whatever, because I'm coming from a place of genuine love and desire. And I don't have covert contracts. If anything, I'm going to be very expressive about what I want, but I'm not attached to an expectation that I'm automatically going to get what I want. So I'm not going to go and clean the dishes and take out the trash and mow the lawn in the hopes that she's going to have sex with me. I'm going to do that because that's just something I genuinely feel where I can be of service. And I can do that from a place of just genuine presence. And it allows me to build intimacy with her because she sees that I'm there. And I'll, at the same time, I'll speak up for my needs. The problem that so many men have is that they don't speak up for their needs. They don't speak up for their emotional needs. They don't speak up for their sexual desires. They don't speak up for what they want. And as a result, that's why they're lost. And that's regardless of whether they identify as a dominant man, a submissive man, or somewhere in between.
So, Francisco, do you agree with this? And I see you nodding that you agree. So, is that conflictive with, let's say, the power masculinity that I don't know, that society said, oh, we should be these kind of manly man. Is that something that for example, is there a biological factor to this? If it's a gender thing where it's like a man should be this and a woman should be this, or is this just something you can switch off and on? And does that help a woman to be attracted to a man, for a man to be open about what he wants? Or
Yeah, like to answer the last question, yeah, I think that helps a lot. Like if he knows what he wants, it's very helpful, but it also comes with confidence. And the other thing regarding the biological part, so there is a big biological part that shapes man behavior. And if you like women and men, we have like this animal part in us that kind of dictates us certain things. And it is like, if you look at, I mean, I'm not a biologist, so just, it's not my area of expertise here, but just roughly, if you look at the brain, there are like certain differences between the female brain and the male brain. In terms of hormones, there are differences. Of course, like the whole reproductive system is different, and the body shape too. But if you look at these, at the hormones, especially, and the brain areas, you can see that everything actually goes for men into the direction of outside drive, protection, creating safety, building, protecting. And she is more like, women are more about connection, relational, relational cues and emotional safety, and also like how they function under stress, for example, is different. Like he goes more into solitude and tries to solve things and goes into action, and she goes more into conversation and tries to be very verbal about these things and tries to solve it through connection. And so there are differences, but it is also true if you look at testosterone and estrogen, for example, which is like the cliche female and male hormones, and we both have them. So testosterone is about, I think, like 10 to 20 times higher in men, and estrogen is 5 times higher in women. But both have both. But it's just like this, how all these things interact with each other gives like a certain direction. And you can see, so we talk about masculine and feminine in a more like energy way, and it creates a certain energy, but it comes from the animal actually. So, and how we were like in past times, how we are built instinctively. And there's this story. I mean, you're a dad, so you know this probably, that many mothers, they complain that they wake up during the night when the baby cries, but he doesn't. He's just fast asleep. And the interesting thing is, he doesn't wake up when the baby cries, but when there's noise outside the house, he wakes up and she's fast asleep. So we react to certain cues, and this is still alive in us. And I mean, we are not only animals. We have like this biological makeup, but we are more than that. This is like one instance in us. And I think it's very, very important to integrate this part. And many don't do that. Many just push it away. So to use that and to have this as the groundwork for everything else. So to have like this foundation, because the animal part is about the nervous system, the body. It's about safety. And this is why what I say often is that polarity is like a good foundation for relationships, because it solves this issue of feeling safe. So when we work with that, we have the opportunity to feel safe on a instinctive physical level. And now I lost my train of thought, but there's like, Freud, he talked about the it. So the animal part is the it. And then there's the I. So I decide. And I think this is very important, that there's like an I instance, because often when we talk about assholes and nice guys, what we actually talk about is like assholes are often very much connected with the animal and also like identify through that. And nice guys, in my view, often push that animal away. So, but there's something in between where I have like a part in me that decides who is in charge now. And I take all these parts of me with me like kids, and I let them be there, but I'm the one in charge. And this is also like how cultural, how we can work on that culturally. I don't think we can neglect this makeup that we have as men or as women, but we can build bridges towards the other one. And this is how we can elevate it and make it more sacred. So it's like more sacred polarity.
Wow. You're like a poet, scientist, romantic. Like, you just unloaded on us like this, so much. And that's great. That's exactly what we want. And if I was to roughly kind of sum it up for Taylor to respond to this, is, like it's almost like we're just animals. Not almost. I think we are, but there's a civilized part of us that pushes away from that animal instinct, and there's another part that we can't even control. That it's just that's who we are, and so there's a spectrum of men that fall between the very animalistic, very rough. And then there's the other ones that fall probably more in the, I'm really away, that's not who I want to be. But they make a conscious decisions to not be there. Taylor, do you agree with that and a lot of the what Francisco was saying? Especially, I like where naturally men are aware of that conflict outside, like for protection of the home, and the women are conscious of that emotional and like the internal awareness of feelings and things like that. Is that something that you agree with, Taylor? You don't agree? And also, could you tell us a little bit about how being submissive, is it a conscious decision? Like kind of like you're trying to get away from that manly animalistic, and you consciously say, "That's not who I want to be. I want to be this submissive side of that. I don't want that natural instinct to come out."
There's definitely a physiological and biological component to all of this that needs to be acknowledged. Women's cycles are different from men. Men have very solar cycles, like a steady, solar sun-oriented thing. And I'm not saying it doesn't fluctuate a little bit, because some days it does, but it's not the same as what a woman experiences. I think that one of the best pieces of advice I would give to any man, regardless of what their orientation is to track their woman's cycle and pay attention to it. Track the physiological, the biological cycle, because when you understand what she is going through on a given day and what her experiences are, and you're not going to fully understand it, let me be very clear, but when you have a sense of it, of what that is, it actually orients you toward her and being able to show up for her with more presence and awareness. So if she's having a day where she's in her luteal phase, you're going to pay attention and be aware that there's going to be more irritability there than if there is a day where she's maybe feeling really horny because she's in ovulation. And of course, that's not even factoring in perimenopause and the changes that occur there. So I think that that's a really important thing. Some of what we're also dealing with are societal constructs around how men and women interact. I agree that women definitely are socialized to connect more and to be more connective. But I think men crave that connection as well. And a lot of times it's set up in a way where they don't necessarily get it. But what I've seen in my work with men's groups and just in general is that when men are provided and actually take the chance to form healthy masculine relationships with each other, there is a lot of connection that occurs there. And often it's a connection that they really need, because it teaches them how to kind of lower some of the walls and open up the cage that they're keeping their wild man in. If you're familiar, I don't know if either of you are familiar with Iron John by Robert Bly, but one of the things that he talks about in Iron John is the wild man. I would say really that there's a wild man / wild woman within all of us. And the wild man is kind of kept in a cage, and he's not, and that's the civilized world, right? The civilized world tries to keep us into a cage. What I would share is that for me, being a submissive man isn't about being civilized. It is a very conscious choice to enter into a very primal state of awareness around how I can be of service and devotion to the one that I'm with. It's paying attention to her and being aware of her in ways that she may not even be aware of, where I'm tracking what's going on with her. Now, this can be done, this can occur with dominant men as well. I've seen that. So this isn't exclusively limited, and it's really important not to categorize and say, well, if you're this way, it fits into this. If you're this way, it's just how it shows up is going to be different. So as a submissive man, when I am fully in presence with my mistress, I'm paying attention to all the details and things that are going on. She may be very much giving me some direction or focus. She certainly, as the person I'm devoted to, there may be that, but I'm still nonetheless paying attention to the subtle details and everything else so that I can show up for her in a place of full awareness and presence. And I think that's absolutely essential to this. So it's important to understand that there is the physiological components. And again, I'm not a biologist either, so it's not my wheelhouse. But I do read up on and study as much as I can, because I think it's really important, the psychology, the neuroscience, all that stuff. So at least I have some awareness in terms of what I'm discussing. But at the end of the day, I'm also, I'm not a trained biologist, and that's not what I want to be. But I think it's really important to recognize that, and to recognize the societal, cultural imprints, and to question them. So for me, like when I look at submission is a conscious choice. When I'm choosing to kneel each day to my beloved, that is a conscious choice, and I'm doing it from a place of sovereignty. And when I'm choosing to be in full presence and awareness with her, that makes a difference. And she knows when I'm not. She can totally call me in when I'm not in awareness and presence and say, look, I don't feel like you're really here. And that's happened before. And that happens, I think, regardless of what kind of relationship dynamic you have. And both partners need to be comfortable with that. They need to be comfortable calling each other in, because sometimes I've called her in as well. And that's part of the role of being in relationship, is that how are you able to embody the presence that calls the other person in, so that you are fully present with each other? And not just during when you're having great sex, but when you might be having a really difficult conversation.
So this has gotten really philosophical. I have to go read a million books now after this, but that's amazingly great. If we were to not dumb it down, but if we were to go to the primal animalistic side of the interview, right? So Francisca, do you prefer a man to get you and go, come here, woman? Or a man that goes, spank me, or I don't know. I'm sorry. That's my submissive. I'm bad at these impressions, but if a man's like, hey, you take control. What do you prefer? And I know that's not like a general, all women are going to like that, but what do you prefer?
I personally definitely prefer the dominant man. But I also have to say, there is like, I just call it like maybe basic or not so good dominance that is very much about control. And I'm not about that. And this is why I'm also resonating with Taylor so much, because devotion is something that fits for me into the dominant aspect. For me, like good dominance means to be very present and to be able to feel and see beyond your cock. And many men who claim to be dominant, well, first, they're not really good at leading, and they don't really have like a lot of authority in them. But they are trapped in the animal part. So it's just about their pleasure, their fuck, their whatever. And this is not what I mean. There's an elevated form, and this is much more about leadership and about being present and then leading him and her into the territory where both like have like these ecstatic experiences. So, but like also like, I mean, apart from sex, it's also like in life, I very enjoy it to be when I am with men who can take the lead on the outside. It's extremely relaxing for me. And me as being a woman, I mean, I'm in charge a lot. So it's very, I remember like the first date with like the most dominant man I had probably in my life. And then at a very soon, the waiter only talked with him. So everything that was communicated between the waiter and us was actually communicated between the man and the waiter. And the waiter didn't even like look at me anymore. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. And I voiced that and said, wow, he's not talking to me anymore. And the man said, well, yeah, how do you like it? And I was like, I think it's great. I don't have to do anything. That's amazing. And many men, like many women, I told the story. They were like, what? And I was like, yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, I can kind of see that. But they have to hear it before from me, because like all the propaganda is like, you like the man, you can never obey to a man. It's not about obedience. It's about like, there's someone who holds the outside and I can trust into it. That's amazing. Like, if that is possible, that's amazing.
I see what you mean. So there's, I guess, two aspects of the dominance, right? There's the sexual dominance. That's one aspect, but it's very tied into just real world dominance because, right, like you're at a restaurant, you're not having sex, but you felt the dominance from this
man. You have
man.
to feel it in real life. Like, I can't be convinced of someone who's just sitting in front of me with no authority at all. And like, I don't know, like whatever, meek. And then he's like, we go to the bathroom and then he puts on his wrist. Like, I'm not convinced of that. Like, I have to feel that, like that's for me, that's not real dominance. Like, either you have it or you don't.
So Taylor, are these men that she's speaking of the ones that are fake dominant, kind of like they don't have that authority? Are those closeted submissive? Maybe they trying to play a role that is not their role.
Well, there's performative leadership that happens. And there's a message that goes out right now. I see it with a lot of men's work coaches who are like, well, men must lead. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on men. And the real question that a man needs to ask is, well, what does it mean to lead? And there's also a really important thing to understand too. Yes, I identify as a submissive man. That doesn't mean that I submit to anyone and everyone. It means I submit to one person, and that's my mistress. When I go out in public with her, the way that I show up, a lot of people wouldn't even know that I was submissive because I'm not submissive to them. It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with my relationship with her and the way that we show up. So there's a very real, it really boils down to presence. That man that Francisca described, he had presence. He showed up with presence. And that's what women crave. And that presence can show up in different ways. It doesn't have to be dominant. It doesn't have to be submissive. It could be, but it has to show up from a place of confident self-awareness. A man who is confident and embodied in himself, regardless of how he orients, is going to be sexy and attractive. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that every woman is going to want to be with a submissive man. But the women who do find that attractive, they'll know, okay, this man's confident enough to be submissive to me, and he's not going to submit to everyone else. He's not going to be somebody that can be walked all over by everyone. What I see a lot of times with men who quote unquote are performing dominance is that they've got a conceptual idea as to what dominance is in their mind. And they think that they have to live up to that stereotype. But they're not confident in themselves. They don't know who they are. And a man who doesn't know himself is not a man who's safe to be with. Because if he doesn't know himself, he's dangerous. When a man knows himself, he's a danger. There's a difference there.
Yeah.
And the danger is that he knows how to handle himself. And it doesn't mean that he's going to go and lash out angrily or anything like that. If anything, he's got that presence where he may express his emotions, but he's never going to express them in a way where it's clear that he's rattled, or he's not going to do it very often that way. And so that's what I think the main difference is. Someone who's performing dominance is somebody who's trying very hard to live up to an image that they think is what they need to be. But what they haven't done is they haven't done that necessary internal work to figure out what they really want and who they are. If you don't know who you are, then you have no business trying to dominate anyone or submit to anyone either.
Are you able to then, is there a particular woman that's going to be attracted to that submissive? And then we're not talking about submissive in life, but just that submissive presence. And for example, someone like Francisca, are you able to, do you find a woman, and I know you have your a man in general, I know you have that you're very lucky to have found the person for you. But I think a lot of men, maybe that in your position, are not going to attract in my opinion, a lot of women because of, if they're saying I'm submissive, I don't think you're going to find every woman is going to be attracted to that. So are you able to find a woman like Francisca, and train is the wrong word, but can you help her adapt to you?
I think both of our responses there already answered that question, but I will answer it. I'll just say that, like, I couldn't go to Francisca and be like, dominate me, Francisca. Like, if that's not what she's into, that's not going to happen. Like, that's just not going to happen.
So that's what I mean. Like, you couldn't.
I want to add something, and I can agree with so much what Taylor says, although it's like a different kind of masculinity but I have to say, I'm probably not the typical submissive, but I'm into submission, and I'm a very sovereign woman. And I know in order to go fully into submission and to go fully into femininity, I had to and still have to build this masculine, this also dominant part in me. I can be super dominant, and I also have to, and I also enjoy it, like in life. I like to do that. So, you can hear me because it was just frozen for a moment. So I know in order to go there, you have to have the other part too. And I know that Taylor has it because I was on a live with him and he was leading it very well. And he wouldn't be able to if he wouldn't have this other part. So there is it is not a lack of leadership. So, submission, and we were talking on that live about it, submission isn't the weak thing. It's a very empowered thing. It's a very sovereign thing to decide to give your trust to someone and let them lead you. That's a decision. You can also do that from a place of dependency, but that's something else. And that would go into like the basic or bad submission, like, the counterpart to basic or bad dominance. So where it can be very destructive because you're not using enough of discernment because you need the other person. So you tend to choose with a lack of discernment. So, and I also had sexual experiences where I was in the dominant role, and I can say that I didn't enjoy it. Because I also, when I'm in life, I'm rather dominant. I think people perceive me as rather dominant, and I enjoy that. I think that's a cool thing. I like to be impressive, and that's often it comes with, So yeah.
So the next episode is going to be a live exercise, to get Taylor to. You dominate Taylor. No. But
so here's what I would say is I think first of all, it depends on the chemistry of the people.
Yeah.
Relationships are active conversations and connections. It's not, and Francisca's right. If I didn't have the ability to lead myself, I couldn't submit. Any person who submits is actually doing it from a place of sovereignty. It is conscious choice. It is trust. And there's a very real difference between somebody being codependent and getting walked all over. And the thing is that even that codependent person, the reason they're codependent, the reason they're displaying those behaviors is because they're actually trying to manipulate and control the other person. They're trying to get approval from the other person. They're trying to get to control how that person shows up in their life. But they're often doing it from a place of wounding and trauma. Whereas a person who is truly making conscious choices, they're operating from a place of conscious awareness. And this doesn't mean that these wounds don't show up sometimes. When I was visiting my beloved recently, we ended up getting into a very intense discussion where she said at one point, she's like, why is it with every man, including you, I try to get in and they don't let me in? And what I ended up doing is I ended up actually breaking down and crying. And I was saying, I just shared my experience of what it was like. All the pressure that I felt being a man, all the things that were there. And she curled around me and we connected. In that moment, it wasn't about who was dominant or who was submissive. It was about connection. It was about me letting her in. And yes, she did penetrate me. And there was another point in that time where she looked at me. It was like a Monday night, and I still remember it vividly. I wrote her a poem about it. She looked at me with such love and trust, complete love and trust, just looking at me, and she penetrated my heart. So yes, in that moment, I was submitting to her through just a look alone. And I was receiving that love and trust completely and fully. And I was choosing to do it.
Okay. I think that also comes from, just human. I don't think men or women, but I think when you meet someone, you don't let them in. I mean, you don't know the people that you meet. So I think it takes time to build up to that openness. And, for example, in my case, I'm very closed up, but I'm there consciously, because really I have so much at stake in being vulnerable that there's no reason for me not to be closed up. And there's been a few women that have found a key, let's say, that have been able to get in. I didn't mean to, I think that they just have that key and they just automatically go in, and but then I become a different person because, for example, in long-term relationships, then I have a hard time with those people to saying no or bad decisions, even just in life, just, oh, let's do this, let's buy that, really bad decisions from financial, from everything. And I look back now in those failed relationships and go, I probably could have just said no to a million things and things would have worked out. And so I lost the leadership there. But in the sexual aspect, there's also a thing where, I think there's a little bit of a turn on when you have a woman that's like an alpha woman and you dominate her. There's like in the real world, she's alpha. And then in the closed doors, she's just nothing but your puppet, whatever that means. But there's something there. But it's also, there's something that I find that I like as well, is that those women that look like, oh, so innocent. Oh, she is so submissive in the world. But behind closed doors, they're this monster. And even though you could dominate them, you just kind of give up and go, okay. Like, there's something good about letting them go crazy. Is that, where am I? Because I feel like that, I don't know. Is that submissive? Is that dominant? Either one of you, like what? Francisca, are you like that in public and then in the bedroom someone else? Or how does this all work? And is everybody like this?
I mean, it's often said that like the people who have like the big companies and lead them, they have their own domina at home, or not at home, but somewhere. So this is like the cliche. And I think it's for a reason. I can only say for myself, like, because, as I said, I'm perceived often as rather dominant, or like I'm a tall woman and I'm very proud, and like all these things, and they lead to like a certain, I mean, I'm super nice, me, but I'm, like the first impression often is like, oh, okay. And like people respect me, and that's a good thing. And I always, like, when I'm with men, I very, very enjoy not being in charge on the outside, because it allows my brain to just shut down, and for myself, like, to relax and to get into my body and to open and to soften and to, well, yeah, be in my feminine. That's
So behind closed doors, do you have an alter ego sort of, where, outside you're this person, and then that door closes and like, or
no.
did you go, no?
No, I infuse all these parts into my life too. You can also, I think, like, people who are able to see it, who know it, they recognize it in me. And I can also, also like these sensual parts in me and stuff. I don't shut it away for the bedroom. It's like, I work with it during the day, and I like working with that. It's fun. It's like, I play with it and I like it. And so, and of course, there are situations where certain parts are not so on the forefront, but I I really like, I do a lot to integrate these different parts of me, because I feel like, I feel more whole. And I studied acting. I don't know if you know that, but I come from acting, actually. Yeah. And what I found so fascinating is that I had all these different roles, and my approach always was to find the connection between me and the role. So what do we have in common? Where do I know that from? The dilemma they in, the feelings they in. And I was surprised. I mean, I played like a range of characters. And I could always find like a common thing. I always knew that from somewhere. And in hindsight, I really have to say, yeah, you like in acting, you learn how you broaden your range. If you don't make it about performance, but about your like you being more broad. So, and I think it's important, because often we talk about authenticity, and we usually mean the part, like the version of us that we lived all of our life, like the personality that we think we are. But this is just one part, and many people are frightened when it comes to changing, they desire change, they desire something else. But when it comes to break the old patterns, to break the old persona, it's very frightening. But this is what actually liberates. We have so many parts of us. We are so actually endless. I mean, have the soul like in this body, but actually like the soul is so wide. And when we see babies, we have like this experience of like this open channel almost. So there's so much possibility to live. And I think we shouldn't narrow us down to one version. And I also want to add, in regards to submission and dominance and masculinity and femininity, when I work with men, I always work maybe even to the same amount, to the same degree, on the feminine part, and not only on the masculine part. Because often the feminine part, like the inner part, the feelings, their presence comes from, needs attention. They often are so cut off from what they feel, their inner guidance. They kind of have it, but they stop listening to it. So I work on that part too, because I know you need both parts. You can't just like work on masculinity, because then it's either the animal version or you get into a performance. And this is not my goal. I want them to feel really sovereign, and then to choose. And, like, it's not that every man is like, I think like man in my life should be. And it's not about that, but yeah, you need both in order to be able to choose what is right for you. And with dominance and submission, we change throughout the day. We change these states. No one ever is only in one state. That just doesn't happen.
All right, so Taylor, do you think, well, first, let's go back, because I want you to comment to that. But when the door closes, because actually like you said, you don't look submissive, and I see you, and you practice martial arts, and it's like a man's man to the external world. If you weren't saying that you were submissive, no one would know. But when that door closes, right, and you come from the martial arts, and you're like, and do you become someone else? Is submission, as now you go from this man to like, I'm. Can you paint a picture for us of like, what does that submission mean in the bedroom? Because I think that's a lot of men are afraid of the submission because of whatever we have in our heads. We're like, oh, he's gonna get beat with whips and like kicked, or I don't know what happens when you close the door. Your laugh says a lot. Maybe.
So let me just.
I didn't mean to go so close to the truth. I don't know.
So it's not like an alter ego comes out when I close the door. It's just that what I'm doing is tapping into my deepest desires and syncing them up with hers. And sometimes, for example, I'm a service top, so sometimes I top her in the bedroom. But the way that I look at like submission is that submission is oriented from service. And I'm not, the problem I think that so many people have, and I say people, not just men, not just women, but just people in general, is that we live segmented lives. So you have your public life, you have your private life, and you have your secret life. Well, I don't want that. I want one life, soul-led, all in. This is something that one of my mentors, Trevor Boehm, has talked about, and it resonates deeply with me. What is the whisper of my soul sharing with me that's helping me to live my most authentic life? I've been that man who's lived a segmented life. I have at times had, and what I felt is just this split that has not felt authentic. And that's what has made me feel weak, because I felt pulled in different directions. And it was when I stopped segmenting my life, when I accepted the importance of just being fully in with how I choose to show up in the world, regardless of what people think happens behind the bedroom door or not, that it changed. So when I go behind the bedroom door, it's not that anything really changes. I mean, we might break out the whips. We might break out the other things. We might do all kinds of fun stuff, whatever. It's how I'm still showing up with presence. It's just the way that my presence shows up for her is not necessarily how it's going to show up in the world, because I'm not submissive to everyone. It kind of goes back to another thing too, which is that, you were talking earlier about the woman who found the key to your heart, and they opened it and they went in and for a while it was good, but then you found yourself saying yes to everything and not saying no. When I look at that, what I see there is like a mother wound. And so for men, one of the most important pieces of healing they need to do is around the wounds that they have with their parents. With their father, it's going to usually be not good enough. The not good enough wound. Because, their father was told he wasn't good enough by his father, so on and so on. And there's this, ancestral line there. But with it looks like she dropped off. Okay. With the mother wound, there is going to be this wound around trying to get her approval. And so men will say yes so often to the women in their life. And they're saying yes from a place of trying to get approval from their mom. But what they don't realize is they've projected their mom onto that woman. And so they have this split. And they're not fully showing up in presence. And she can sense that. She knows. And that's why she gets frustrated and angry. She doesn't want a yes man. She wants a man who has possession of himself well enough to be able to say no when he needs to. The very act for me of submission isn't that I automatically say yes to my beloved. It's that I choose to say yes consciously. And every time I say yes, it is a conscious choice. And that I can also speak up and say no. And that when I say no, there's something here to explore. There's data, there's information, there's something going on here. And part of it is leaning into my intuition, because men do have intuition, just like women do. It's learning to tap into that. So one thing I would share for you, because you shared that example earlier, is to really explore where that tendency to say yes is coming from a place of seeking approval. And asking yourself, well, who am I trying to say yes to? Do I really want to be saying yes? One of the things that I say to my clients is, you have to learn how to choose yourself first. Choose yourself first, because you can't choose somebody else until you choose yourself. So it's about learning to say yes to yourself and no to everyone else, so that when you do say yes to somebody, It's because you already said yes to yourself. And there's real power in that. And not enough people do it.
Yeah. And it's like
amazing. Wow. Thank you for that. Please don't send me a bill, because that really helps me personally. And I think a lot of men are in the same situation, that we do have a lot of baggage that we never close up. And then some women happen to mirror, for example, like a mother or something that is part of that wound, and we just keep dragging it along. And I do notice that. I notice that I'm attracted to kind of like a little bit of this chaotic part that I might have seen in my life as a younger child. It's very familiar. It's like, oh, yeah, I live in this chaos. This is normal. Where now I look back and I go, why? Why am I stuck here? Why do I feel uncomfortable at peace? Because then when I have peace, I feel bored. I feel, like it doesn't feel like it should feel. Like peace should feel good, but if peace doesn't feel good, peace feels peaceful. And when you grow up in chaos, that's life. And anything else is kind of like, you feel almost guilty to be at peace. Like, I probably should go over there and start an argument or something, because you just grew up in that environment. Francisco, do you agree with what Taylor is saying here? And also, do you think that these childhood wounds are part of maybe not making a man more dominant, or that they make a man not submissive, but they lack leadership because of these wounds? Or what would be your perspective on why this happened?
Yeah, 100%. Like we are imprinted by what we experience. I mean, what you're describing, like many know that, many people know this feeling. There's, like my nervous system is attuned to chaos. And whenever I don't have chaos, I get nervous. I have to change something. Like the way we were loved as kids, this is the love that we seek later. So this is the template for love, but we can change it. That's possible. But like first step is definitely like to be aware of what is happening. And I also want to say, because like there's this notion in the spiritual and self-help world that, like relationships should feel, peaceful and calm, but there is also like an actual boring. So, and relationships that are safe can still feel exciting. We had that the last time when we were talking on your podcast. What, like, it's now in regards to men and women, what makes her feel safe with him is also what makes her feel excited about him, because it's his dangerous side that is able to protect her. And it needs to be paired with leadership, because he's not gonna attack her, of course, because then he's not a safe man anymore. But, so this can be one. You can be excited and safe. But most of the time, I would say there's some work involved. And what I wanted to add before is we all want to be chosen, but most of us are not free to actually choose freely. Most of us want something. We are in some form of codependency. So this is actually life. If we work on that, we actually like benefiting our partner or future partner, or whatever. A lover. Lover is the better word.
Yeah. I want to add something to that, which is that it's really important to really look at, okay, I want this chaos in my life. Why do I want that chaos? It's familiar. Well, there's stuff that's unresolved there. It's important to do our work to heal ourselves, man or woman, doesn't matter. We all need to do our work. And when we do our work, that's when we get to open the cage door that we've put ourselves in and that we were put in by family, society, whatever. Step out and consciously choose our path moving forward in relationship to ourselves and in relationship with the people that we choose in our life. And this doesn't mean that there isn't conflict. It doesn't mean that there aren't moments where you're going to be with somebody where stuff is going to come up. But I think one of the tropes that I see about relationship is the idea like, oh, you get into a relationship and your partner and your partner's supposed to heal you. And I think that is absolutely one of the most toxic pieces of perspective that I've ever seen, because it's like, okay, you're putting the onus of your healing on somebody else. That's not her role. It's not your role either. Your role is to do your work so that when you get into a relationship, you're able to own and take responsibility for what shows up without continuing to act it out. You're able to say, okay, here's what's really going on. Like I said the other day, when my beloved and I had a conversation and then I ended up sharing some stuff with her, I wasn't trying to put that on her. I didn't want her to heal me. I didn't need her to heal me. That's my work to do. But having her witness it and being able to witness it and to be there with me, yeah, that was beautiful and powerful. And I needed that. And that's something we can give each other. We can witness each other, but we're not. And we should never take on the responsibility of healing somebody else. That's not our role. That's codependence right there. And it's basically trying to control the other person and fix them.
Though
Absolutely.
I want to add something, like, I mean, healing can occur in relationships. Yeah.
For sure, it can. And I'm not saying it can't. I want to be clear. It should not be the primary reason why you're in a relationship.
Yeah. And not handing that
absolutely.
over.
I think that you shouldn't be in a relationship if you got that work to do. I mean, that's you may drag somebody into years of problems that you didn't resolve. Now they're part of something that is not fair to them. But in moving a little bit into Taylor, your because I think last time we talked, a couple of things really stood out, which is rituals, and we'll get to that. But first, how did you? What was it? Was there a trigger about you owning being submissive? Like, you know, you say that you performed for many years, and then was there like something that you go, hey, you know, I'm this, or you know, and I was joking before, obviously, about the whips or whatever, but how did you even know that you would like that or not? Right? Like, because like it's something that you have to consciously go into. It's not something that you fall into. So did you have it already in your mind that you were submissive, or is it something that triggered you to be that?
Well, I think that, you know, when I look back at my life, I can certainly see different points in time where it was very clear that there were submissive desires there, but they weren't being expressed in a healthy way because I didn't know how to express them and I hadn't done the work around them. What I think helped is that I went on a journey to heal my relationship with the feminine. And some of that work was on my own. Some of it was in containers with other men, and some of it was in co-gender containers where I was working with both men and women. In fact, I ended up getting a tattoo at the end of that work, which was, it's like a tattoo of of water, which represented the ice in my heart having been melted. Once I had done all that work, I wasn't operating from a place where I was getting into a relationship with, in my particular case, in my particular case, like my ex-stepmom. I wasn't trying to get into a relationship and heal that wound anymore. That was done. And so it allowed me to consciously choose the relationship. And as a result of being able to consciously choose that relationship, I also started to really explore, well, what does my sexuality look like? How do I show up in relationship? What does this mean to me? And so I gradually kind of came to a place where I could consciously accept that. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me was an experience that I had actually this summer where my car got hit by a deer. I was driving back from my beloved all the way back down to Eugene, Oregon. I was 7 hours out. And my car ended up getting towed to a small little town. I didn't know anyone there. And I, in a very real sense, had to give up having any sense of control. I had to take my hands off the steering wheel and let go and just allow people to help me and receive that help. And that process really brought to my full awareness how much I didn't want to be in control with every aspect of my life and how I did want to really fully step into my submission. I had already been exploring this with her, but it brought it home in a different way. So I think that there are events in your life that will bring that kind of thing home, and you just have to be receptive to them in whatever way they show up. And again, sometimes you are still going to be dominant. There are days where I'm showing up and I'm like, all right, I got to go. I got to get this thing done. I got to take care of this. I got to do that. And it's boom, boom, boom. And it's like, yeah, I'm going out there and doing the things. But in a very real sense, I'm also allowing myself to let go of the need to have a sense of control. I don't need to be in control in order to live a full and happy life. Some people do, or at least they think they do. And however that shows up for them, great. But the important thing is that I'm choosing that submission from a very sovereign place of awareness, like that yes to myself before anyone else that I talked about earlier.
So Francisca, have you ever been with a submissive man? Not that you search for it, but have you just, discovered that they were submissive?
Well, not to the degree that Taylor talks about, but
no whips.
I had actually. I'm sorry.
No whips, or what degree is that?
Man, you got to get over this whole whip thing.
Yeah, the whips is cool.
It is cool, but you're just kind of like falling into stereotypes.
Put a meme, right? Like you just think submissive, I know it's not that. I'm making light of it, but have you encountered someone at any level of submission?
You know what is interesting? I had men that were actually very dominant on the outside initially, but they had some very submissive parts, and I think they weren't aware of it. And this is very interesting because I remember in hindsight, especially about one particular, I was thinking, well, this was very submissive and this actually too. And this, what did we do? So, no.
What's the most submissive thing that's happened? They're like, oh, what, that you're like, this is, basically put you in a dominant role, whether you want to or not. Like, is there something that they asked you to do that you're like, okay, this is new?
Yeah.
Was it?
Two things. You want me to voice
please.
them?
We want the tea.
Okay. So one wanted to be urinated on, and the other one wanted, and this is the two main examples. The other one wanted to be pegged.
Pegged, it wanted you to do stuff to him?
He wanted to be pegged.
He wanted me to fuck him. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's pretty submissive.
Yeah, that was submissive. Yeah. But it's actually, it makes sense to have that from a woman who knows what it means to be penetrated. She will probably be pretty careful.
So Taylor, is this normal? I mean, are these men, are they living a lie? Because, obviously they have the submissive. There's proof that they're submissive, but then they live in this world of dominance. I'm assuming they were dominant, Francisca, right? In the real world, you would never think that they would want these things.
I mean, it depends on how honest they're being with themselves. If they don't know that that's something that they want, or they're not aware of it, or they're in denial, then yeah, they're living a lie. And this is the case for a lot of people where they are living lies in their lives. I mean, and this is regardless of DS dynamics. You can have somebody who's living a lie when it comes to their life, and it has nothing to do with the sexual energy. It has everything to do with how they present themselves, though. So if they're not aware of it, yes. If they're consciously aware of it and they're like, this is something I really want, that's a difference because they're consciously choosing it. And I think a lot of times what happens is that men in this case, get really uncomfortable with acknowledging what they really want, because to admit that is to be vulnerable. What if she rejects me? What if she doesn't want me? What if I share this and then I find out? And this is actually true though for dominant men as well. I have, again, someone I know where he confessed to his wife some desires he had around being dominant in the bedroom. And she's like, you're a freak. What did he do? He turned to porn. He turned to writing erotic Twitter posts and had a vanilla sex life. It didn't work out in that marriage in the end, obviously, because here's the other truth is that what you deny will only be denied for so long before it comes out sideways, and it comes out and it demands to be heard. And at some point it will blow up your life. So it's better to just be honest. And for so many people, that's not easy. And I say that as somebody who's been there, done that, because I have blown up my life in some ways because there were things that I wasn't being fully honest with other people. And, the impact of that is that those relationships get changed and transformed. What would have happened if I had just known myself well enough? Now I can give myself some compassion and grace because, I was younger then. I didn't fully know. And these were things that I had to realize. But I think it's better to do this work with somebody like me and Francisca, where we're actively working with somebody and help them to kind of come to that awareness instead of finding it out by like, oh, I'm going to blow up this relationship that I'm in. Well, great. I just realized these things. And sometimes that's still going to happen. And then if that happens and you find that you're going to walk away from someone, then do it with grace and compassion as much as you can. Recognize that you own that you are on a different path. And take responsibility for that, but take responsibility with compassion and grace, because that person didn't know that and you didn't know it. So be compassionate and graceful to yourself, but also be that way with the other person, because they deserve that from you.
Absolutely. And last time we talked, the second thing that kind of stood out to me was the rituals, and more, when you said, for example, that you bow down and kiss her ring or something like that. There was like
I don't bow down and kiss her ring. I kneel to her, and
okay.
I will say something that day about how I'm submitting to her. And if I'm with her in person, she'll have the collar, this in her hands, and then she'll ask me if I'm willing to accept her collar for the day, and I say yes, and she puts it on. She puts it around my neck. And sometimes she has my more traditional collar. When I'm not with her, because again, this is a long distance relationship, then what I do is I kneel and I do a voice note. And then afterwards, I put the collar on myself.
Okay. So no, that stood out because
this.
obviously we always put ourselves into that situation and say, would I do that? Right. And Francisca, what do you think about this? Is this something that you as a woman will want a man? Like I don't know. Is it something? What do you think about this? Is it something that maybe you would be turned on by, or?
Not turned on by, but I find it very beautiful. Like the picture, it's like I had in mind a queen. I don't know what the name is, but a queen in the night. That's what I thought when I heard. I think it's a beautiful image. I think it's a thing. I think I'm different. Like I probably wouldn't need that, or like I would go into these spaces in a different way, but it's just like it's a personality thing maybe. So, but I like the image, but it doesn't turn me on. I think it's beautiful. So it's more like,
but if a man did that, would you look down on him? Like saying, oh no, or would you, if you liked him already, I don't know, would you accept that this is what he wants to do? How would you handle that? Meaning that if a man is submissive, I think a lot of men that are submissive are not going to open up because they're afraid of what you're going to think. So what would you think, or how would you handle this?
If he would kneel in front of me, and yeah. So if it was a man that I already know and that I'm already into, I would be open to it, because like I know my discernment. I'm like, the man I choose for myself, like I know, like, it's good. So there's no question. I'm open for many things. I don't think that I would like or would enjoy the relationship dynamic to be that way in general. But I did in the past, as I told you, like I switched, and that's fine with me. But I really enjoy to melt into a man's arms. And I'm not saying this is not the case here. But for me, it comes more with this embodied dominance, like the good dominance. So as a general thing, I wouldn't want it, but I would be open, and I would really want to see what it's about for him, like what he's looking for actually. And I'm very open for these things because I think there's nothing that should be taboo, and there's no why, for what.
Now, would you kneel for a man?
Yes.
Oh,
I wouldn't.
I didn't expect that answer. I really.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say. I don't know if I would go with a collar. Really, I'm not sure. I think because I'm a very freedom-loving woman. I think I would need to feel the space to do whatever. But I'm also not saying this is not possible. It really depends. I have been in situations where we were talking about collars, and I was like, "So when do I get my collar?" And he was like, "Well, you're not ready."
Big Taylor, I mean, is this a normal behavior, or you think that she's an outlier? Because I was expecting you to go that you wouldn't, right? I don't know why in my head, but that's very interesting.
So I'm not going to presume to speak for Franziska as far as what is normal or not for her, because that's her sovereign expression. But what I will say is that, each person it comes to their own awareness around what they want. I don't think it's abnormal for a woman to want, or a man to want, to kneel to their partner if that's something that they feel compelled. And again, if it's operating from their place of sovereignty and saying yes to themselves before they say yes to the other person. It's, if I kneel to somebody and I'm saying yes to them, but I'm not saying yes to myself, that's not submission. That is something else there. And there's something that needs to be explored with that. But, it really boils down to what the relationship dynamic is and how that shows up. If I once had an experience with somebody where I was with somebody where she basically had determined that I was submissive, and she decided that she was going to dominate me. That relationship blew up on so many levels, because I wasn't at a place where I was willing to accept that about myself, but also because she made that determination without really having a conversation with me. She didn't, she decided that herself without really taking the time to discover, well, what does that look like for him and what would that mean? And she wasn't doing it from a place of respect. And I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't respect me, who thinks that they can just run roughshod on me or whatever else. When I put this collar on, this for me is an act of liberation. It's saying I can let go and trust this person, and in the process liberate myself from all the things that don't work for me. Getting caught in the mind spirals, getting stuck in my head sometimes, all the other things. This is a deliberate choice. And there is power and reverence in that. But if I put this on for the wrong reasons, then it doesn't mean anything. And if anything, it's a perversion of what it means. So I think it really boils down to, in that moment, what am I choosing to give that person? If Franziska chooses to kneel to somebody, what is it that she's choosing to give? Only she can answer that question. I could give you all kinds of theories and everything else, but for one thing, that would be just totally disrespectful, and I'm not going to do it. But secondly, that's not for me to determine. I can honor and witness it, but it's not for me to determine.
Great. And the reason I asked, because that's why it stood out so much to me last time, and even this time, even more, because kneeling, and we're using that as an example of submission. Obviously, there's a million ways to be submissive, but in that instance, it's not something that just happens. Like even Franziska, I'm assuming you're not going to kneel just because it's Thursday, you're going to kneel to a person. There's something, there's a conversation. There's a vibe there. I mean, you don't just start kneeling. For example, you have your precious one. What do you call her? Your loved one, Taylor.
My
The
beloved. Yeah.
beloved. That's the word. Where obviously this is where you guys are vibe. This is your frequency. So it's not off the wall. It's not off the wall. But when you don't know, if I meet a girl right now and I start kneeling, I don't know how, maybe she'll love it. Maybe she'll be like, okay, get out, like leave or.
Well, I don't recommend kneeling to a random person in a grocery store. Like, really, that's just not a good idea.
I'm
What I recommend is that when you get into a relationship with somebody, talk openly about what you both want. And here's the key. You asked earlier, like, is it hard for submissive men to find women who want to dominate them? It's not hard if you are operating from a place of awareness around your values. Relationships should be based not on how hot that person is over there. Should be based on values. What are my values? How are those values showing up in my life? Am I living those values? And does this person's values match mine? A relationship that's based on values has a much better chance of being successful than a relationship where there's a mismatch on values. Because that person may be hot, but when you discover physically hot, but when you discover that there are some things that don't match, that hotness is going to go away real quick. But somebody who has shared values, somebody that you can be like, this is a person I can have a great conversation with now, and I could have a great conversation with them 5 years down the line, and I could have a great conversation with them later on. Well, that's a person where there's some real juice there. That's somebody that you're going to want to be with. We in our society, we get caught up in the physical attraction, and what we forget is how much that can change. There are things that can change about that. Can I be attracted to this person on the soul level, on the emotional, the mental level, and the physical level? And what am I going to do when there's something that happens with that person physically, where maybe they're not able to be sexual a certain way or something like that? That doesn't mean that sex life goes away, but that things change. What am I going to do if someday I have to wipe that person's butt? Like, really? That's a question people don't ask enough of. Am I going to be willing to be there for that person when maybe they're going through a really rough time in their life and they don't look so hot or beautiful physically because they're busy just mourning or grieving, or because they're going through some kind of physical illness or whatever? Am I going to be there for that person then? Am I going to care? Question you really got to ask ourselves is, can I show up with devotion and service, or whatever it is that we want to call it? Can I show up with my values? Am I living a value-based life, or am I living a life that's just based on desire? And desire is great, but desire that's informed by values is the secret sauce that leads to stable relationships.
Those are great questions. Those questions should be asked when you get in like a marriage certificate, or like, when you go to get your marriage license to get married. Those should be like a questionnaire. Are you not just for good or bad or whatever, or sickness and in health, but really go into deep questions? Are you going to wipe this person's butt, or if something happens? You got to be able to have a check mark, because you're right. People don't think about that when the physical part goes away, the attraction, the relationship continues, supposed to continue, but it doesn't always end that way. So let's go on the closing round, and these are the quick fire questions. So these are yes or no. You can expand on them if you want, but it's pretty much your stand on this, and be well. I mean, you both are always true to who you are, but it's not about being right or wrong. It's just this is how you feel. So, so I'm gonna go, Francisca. Who is more seductive, the man in control or the man who lets go?
I can't change the sentence, right? Because I would say
No.
not in control.
What are the other?
The man who lets go.
Okay. How about you, Taylor?
And let's go.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, okay. So, Taylor, is submission a kink or a calling?
A calling.
How about you, Francisca? What do you think?
Can be both.
Both?
Can be both.
Yeah, I would agree that actually it can be both. I mean, it's really, but if you're going with or, then I'm going to go with call. If you're going to insist on one or the other, then I'm going to go with calling.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you had to choose one, Francisca, which one? If there was a 51%, where would that 51 land?
I think it's a calling. I mean, what is a kink? I think a kink is a calling. So yeah, I go with the calling.
Okay. So, Francisca, can women truly respect submissive men?
Yes.
How about you, Taylor? Well,
yes.
I think I know your answer. That was too easy for you. So, Taylor, is dominance always an ego performance?
No.
How about you, Francisca? So, Francisca, which is harder to master, control or surrender?
Surrender.
How about you, Taylor?
Surrender.
Well, these were good, but I think they were too easy because you're so clear on. This is good for someone that doesn't know. So thank you for that. But in closing, so Francisca, well, Taylor, you start. Give us one piece of advice for men. It doesn't have to be about submission. Just one piece of advice that we can, like, if we were to take this advice and apply it, it would just make us better men. What would that be?
A single piece of advice for men is spend some time getting to know yourself and what you truly want, and heal the wounds that you're carrying with you in that process.
That's beautiful. Actually, that really applies to me personally. So thank you for that. And Francisca, same question. One piece of advice that we can take and apply and become better.
Well, it's pretty similar to Taylor. Don't shy away from the mirror. So don't shy away from looking at yourself and confronting yourself with yourself and your demons and also your potential and your power, especially the power, to be honest. Like, I would love to see, and I think I said that last time on your podcast already, but I will say it again. I would love to see more men feeling confident about themselves again and feeling in their power and really stepping into their power. If it's about dominance or submission, doesn't matter, but it has to go via masculinity and also via like going into these feminine, more softer parts, the more vulnerable parts. So yeah.
Excellent. So thank you guys for being here. And so I'm obviously going to have the links to how people can find you so they can book some time. And I'm not sure if you guys have introductory, because sometimes, one thing that I'm learning as I'm going through this journey and meeting men and this masculinity podcast is that men, weakness is asking for help. So maybe I see Taylor or I see you participate. I'm like, oh, I know maybe they could help me, but I won't, because that's admitting. It's almost like going to see a therapist or a psychologist. Oh, that means that I'm crazy, so I can't go, because you're thinking the extreme. You're not thinking that there's this range. So do you guys, like, if I wanted to contact you guys, so Taylor, like, is there like any way that I could just maybe feel you out to see if we're the right fit?
So I have a free ebook that people can get, which explores sovereign submission, and in it is a complimentary half-hour session that people can book with me so that we can kind of feel each other out. It's not just about them feeling me out, it's also about me feeling them out and making sure it's the right fit. Here's one thing I'm going to say in regards to asking for help. Asking for help is the bravest thing that you can possibly do, because it means that you're confident and comfortable enough with yourself to know what you don't know.
Wow. There you go, man. Like, don't be afraid, especially because you touch on subjects that are not the usual, like that man coach. Yeah, go to the gym and work out. I think that you got to really explore a different side of something that they need to heal with. So hopefully men can at least explore and just talk to you for half an hour. So where do we get the ebook?
It's already available. I'll send you some information.
Okay, so we'll put it there in the link in the description so they can download it. How about you, Francisco? Do you offer something like that where people can just have a quick, just to see if this is the right fit?
Yeah, I offer initial calls. So if someone is interested and is not sure if it's the right fit, they can just send me a mail via my website, and then we can do an initial call, and then can we see if it's
okay. And what's your website?
It's franziska-zahl.de. So it's a very German site, okay. But I'm sure you will link it below.
Yes,
and it's it's in English, so yeah, it's written in English.
We'll do both. And you speak English so well that you couldn't even tell that you're in the other side of the world. So thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Every time, this is it's for me, because as you guys are talking, it's almost like I'm kind of cheating on the consultation, right? Because I'm getting healed here for free, right? Just listening to you guys. So I really, really appreciate you guys' time. And I think more men should really seek from help from people like you, because there's a lot of people that you really have to be careful when you get help from as well. Some of these men helping are more broken than the men that they're trying to help. So you really have to really like you guys are very solid on your positions. This isn't like you were gonna say something, or
I wanted to say something. Yeah, it's like sometimes we think we know it already. Like especially people who are very intelligent, they think I know. What could they tell me? And it's not about telling something else, but it's about breaking the cycles, because I'm very intelligent. I'm very smart, but I was for a long time, and I probably still am sometimes, looping in my patterns, in my thoughts, and I wasn't going, it was not possible to get out of there. And I didn't even realize, so I know in hindsight now, but, so there's really like, to have like a different perspective that is able to see you with your potential and also your struggles, and to give like some new direction and also like some ideas how to break that. And it can be really like simple techniques, simple exercises that you can do. I had like really very simple acting exercises, like men breaking out of certain habits and patterns. It's amazing. So, it definitely is not a weakness. Like, and also, I don't know about you, Taylor, but like the clients that come to me, I feel like I'm so impressed by this strength to confront themselves, to really like, they pay for it, to go into the flesh, and like where it's really uncomfortable sometimes. And they do it, and they want to grow. That's really impressive to me. So I have like the biggest respect for that, because I know how hard it can be and what it takes.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that. I think it is really impressive when somebody says like, I'm ready to do the work. And I think one of the things that strikes me too is that sometimes people wait until their life is completely fallen apart. And like, if you're, don't wait until that point. If you know that there's something there, like just honor yourself enough to do the work that needs to be done. And that means getting some help. Like you don't have to go it alone.
Yeah. Definitely.
Wow. Thank you so much, guys. So, I'm going to go buy me some whips and see if that's what I like. Cause the only way to know is if you try it, right?
Yeah.
You can't, we'll say that you can't knock it until you try it. So I don't think I'm going to like it just because I don't know. But then next episode, I'll tell you, no, you know what? Yeah.
I want to see you with a collar then.
Yeah, with the collar.
Next time.
I come in here with bruises and that submission life, that I'm kidding. Cause I put it like in an extreme, but I think people know it's not like we see in the movies, like the 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
That's how you live all day, Taylor. Like right now, you're going to turn the phone off and go there and get burnt or whatever. Like, like it's a normal life, and it's a way of life. It's not a constant, like hurtful thing physically.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.